Our lives begin to end the day we go to public school and we don't matter. Welcome back, everyone, to the Daily Quote. Today is episode 4, and we have Martin Luther King Jr., timeless wisdom for timely transformation. Martin Luther King Jr. says, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." After the last episode, I was just thinking about, racial injustice and the current state of equity in this country of the United States and globally, and just, so much to say about all of that. And I think, one of the most important things for me around all of it is that I think the system of the modern world, the economy, the 9 to 5, the grind, the amount of advertising, the screen time, the technology, it is a powerful force to keep you, to keep me, to keep us all distracted, numb, and focused on shit that doesn't really matter, right? And I think this quote, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." I think there's a lot of layers to that. There's the racial stuff, right? And I know I need to do more around that. When George Floyd, even before that, Mike Brown, and there's been these big rushes of energy and attention and protesting and change and transformation around racial equity in this country and across the world in the last few years especially. And it's we've seen this before. There's a spike of intensity, there's a spike of involvement, and then there's this lull, there's an emotional drop off, there's a pullback of involvement, and I'm guilty of that. I was going to a protest and got involved in a parent group that was, for racial justice. I was part of a book group of my company around racial justice. Even if it was small things, I was doing stuff. I was actively engaging in it. And I'm not currently actively doing anything around racial justice or equity work. And so I think it definitely does matter to me. And I think it's important to name that, because I think that's where change starts, is admitting what's true, the awareness, and then from there things can change. So I'll definitely keep thinking about, ways I can re-engage in that work in meaningful ways. So that's part of it too. When there's a big surge of energy, you just want to jump in there, because it's when you see these horrible events taking place, these injustices, and you start to really, that numbness goes away. You start to feel the inequity, you start to feel the pain and the trauma, and you want to do something. And then over time, it's it fades, right? So it's but also what I was getting at is you want to jump in, so you just start doing things, and that's great. But it's what can you consistently do? What can you commit to doing? And that's the question I'm holding. Is what's actually an authentic, sustainable way to be part of creating a more equitable world, right? Being anti-racist in my life. What's my practices? What are my contributions? So that's a question that this quote's bringing up for me. What does it bring up for you around, your involvement in racial justice, inequities, creating an equitable world, being anti-racist? But I think there's another layer to this, for me at least. So there's our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I think it also speaks to, for me, there's the racial justice work, but then there's, like I was saying kind of earlier, which definitely plays into that, is just the zombie sleep culture we live in, right? I was talking about earlier, where Everything's kind of suppressing us down. And so, it's like the classic thing, like, what's your passion? What's your purpose? Why are you here? Like, that kind of thing. I think it's really real. Like, I think everyone has, my opinion is everyone does have some kind of purpose in this life, in this world. And our school systems, our culture, our society doesn't support that, right? You're grown up to just be told to sit there and be quiet. This is what you're supposed to know. And then once you get through all that, 12 years of that kind of teaching, you're basically taught to be an employee that just shuts up, sits down, does what you're told. It's like, how many of you had a teacher really ask you, like, what do you want to learn about today? Right? What are you interested in? And actually follow that for more than an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year. What if education was actually about living lives about the things that matter to us, like to this quote, right? Like, that's my point, is when you start to realize that we are swimming in a system to keep us in place. And when you start to break out of that and try to find alternative avenues, and more than ever, has it been made clear that that's possible with the internet. The internet is the great equalizer. And phones, the access. And it's a double-edged sword, of course, around like technology and screen time and people being addicted to their phones, but it's real access for business, creating a business, getting your voice out, all the social media. So I think our lives end most of us end early, because early on we aren't told what matters to us is important. We're told that in 1776, bullshit. So I think it's really important to own and realize that there's layers to that, though, too, right? Like, going back to episode 1 around like starting, it was episode 2, planting seeds. What seeds are we planting? And we don't even realize we're doing that early on in our lives, most of us. We are every day planting seeds. And early on, we're being told what seeds to plant. We're being told that it's a good seed to plant, to sit down and just do your homework and shut up. That's the seed. And part of us dies. I think most people in public school systems, part of them literally die. Like, our lives begin to end the day we go to public school and we don't matter. That's the way I also read this quote. Okay, that's a lot. Let me know your thoughts about all that. Our lives begin to end of the day. We become sad about the things that matter. What's sustainable? What matters to you? Racial justice, equity work, your own purpose, your own mission, why you're here. Let me know.